Good day, everyone. I am Midshipman Perez Eldren R. And today, our group will be going to demonstrate the starting procedure of power generation from cold ship to diesel generator 1 and 2 using the Kongsberg simulator. To start the simulation, set the simulator to cold ship as the initial condition. Then, press F1 to run the simulator and F7 to select the directories. To start the procedure, here is Midshipwoman Herbacio to discuss the first part of the step-by-step procedures.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. First, go to Directory 70, the emergency generator.
Next,
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Start the emergency generator on engine control.
done,
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Switch on the voltage control, then check the voltage and frequency.
done,
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Put emergency generator control to auto.
done,
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Go to Directory 73, emergency switchboard.
next,
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Put all the breaker in on freedom panels, including the emergency transformer inlet breaker, except spare.
done,
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Go to Directory 71, main switchboard. Feeders,
done,
then put breaker in, except spare.
done,
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Put all the breaker in on main switchboard, except spare.
done,
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Go to Directory 72, main switchboard. Feeders, then put all breaker in.
done,
Lastly, Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Go to Directory 40 to start the engine room fan number 2 supply and exhaust fans.
done. And now that the emergency power is now ready, let's now proceed to the preparation of seawater cooling and emergency compressor. To discuss the step-by-step procedure in preparing the seawater cooling, here is Midshipman Argel, and for the emergency compressor, here is Midshipman Supan. Midshipman Argel, please tell the procedure in preparing the seawater cooling.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Go to Directory 1, Seawater System.
Done,
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Open the seawater overboard valve.
done,
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Open the low suction C chest inlet valve.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Open the diesel generator 1 and 2, freshwater coolers, seawater shut-off valve, and freshwater coolers number 1.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Open the seawater recirculation line shut-off valve.
Whenever there is an alarm, acknowledge it to return on its normal condition. Next.
Chief Engineer
Chief
Perez,
En-
sir. Put the temperature control to auto mode.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. And then start the auxiliary pump.
Seawater cooling is now prepared. Midshipman Supan, please tell the procedure in preparing the emergency compressor.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. First, go to the Directory 59. Start air system.
Next.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Open the emergency start air receiver inlet valve and outlet valve.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Open the diesel generator 1 and 2. Start air supply valve.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Put the emergency compressor to local control.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Start emergency compressor by pressing on until receiver pressure to at least 20 bars.
Receiver pressure is already at 20 bars. Next.
And then put the emergency compressor to remote control, sir.
After preparing the emergency power, seawater cooling and emergency compressor, we can proceed on starting the generator 1 and 2. Here is Midshipman Murao to tell the procedure in preparing the diesel generator 1.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Go to Directory 75 Diesel Generator 1. Chief Engineer
Next.
Perez, sir. Check the lube oil sump tank level. The minimum level is 30% and the maximum is 80%.
Lube oil sump tank level is already at 80%. Next.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, open the lube oil filter number 1.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, manually start the lube oil priming pump.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, check the level of expansion tank. Fill up the tank to normal level. If no water flow, go to MD67 and open appropriate valves.
Expansion tank is in normal level. Next.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, switch on the electric preheater with a set point of 75 degrees Celsius.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, open the number 1 diesel oil filter.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, open the pump suction valve fuel.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, kindly go to Directory 5, heavy fuel oil, service tanks.
Next.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, open the diesel oil sanction valve from diesel oil service tanks.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, open the diesel oil supply valve to DG1 and 2.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, go back to the Directory 75 and check start air pressure. Must be above 14 bar.
Our start air pressure is 24.66 bars. Next.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, go to the engine control panel and press start.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, observe the changes of all parameters. RPM should be 905.
RPMs already 905. Again, whenever there is an alarm, acknowledge it to return on its normal condition. Next.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, put on auto mode the preheater.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, put the lube oil priming pump to auto.
Done.
And lastly, Chief Engineer Perez, sir, put the engine control to remote.
Done. And now here is Midshipman Gallevo to tell the procedure in preparing the diesel generator number 2.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, go to MD76 diesel generator number 2.
Next.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, check the lube oil sump tank level. The minimum level is 30% and maximum is 80%.
Our lube oil sump tank level is already at 80%. Next.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, open the lube oil filter number 1.
Next.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, manually start LO priming pump.
Next.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Check the level of expansion tank. Fill up the tank to normal level. If no water flow, go to MD67 and open appropriate valves.
Our expansion tank is in normal level. Next.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Switch on the electric preheater with set point of 75 Celsius.
Next.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Open number 1 DO filter.
Next.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Open pump suction valve fuel.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Check start air pressure must be above 14 bar.
Our start air pressure is 26.97. Next.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Go to engine control panel and press start.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Observe the changes of all parameters. RPM should be 905.
Next.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Put on auto mode the preheater.
Next.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Put the LO priming pump to auto.
Next.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Put the engine control to remote.
And now Midshipman Long-Asan will discuss the procedure on how to connect the diesel generator 1 to our synchronizing panel.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Go to Directory 70, Electric Power Plant.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Press the voltage control of diesel generator 1 and 2. Observe the voltage and frequency output. Requirement should be 440 voltage and 60 Hz.
Okay. Next.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Go to Directory 141, main switchboard diesel generator 1. Check the frequency and the voltage pressing either RS, ST, TR, and current by pressing either R, S, T.
Next.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir. Press synchro button and select diesel generator 1, then correct the breaker.
Done. Midshipman Tambong will discuss the procedures on how to synchronize the two generators, diesel generator 1 and diesel generator 2.
Mr. Chief Engineer, sir, go to Directory 1, start auxiliary pump again.
Done.
Go to Directory 2, 72, main switchboard, feeders.
Done.
Mr. Chief Engineer Perez, sir, main transformer inlet breaker in.
Done.
Mr. Chief Engineer Perez, sir, go to Directory 1 and start main seawater pump and number 1 and then put to remote.
Done.
Mr. Chief Engineer Perez, sir, Go to directory 143, main switchboard diesel generation 2, and start the frequency and the voltage by pressing either RS, ST, TR, and current by pressing either RS or T.
Done.
Mr. Chief Engineer Perez, sir, press synchroscope button, then select DG2, then adjust the frequency to a clockwise direction.
Done.
Sir Chief Engineer Perez, sir, connect the breaker at 11 o'clock.
Done.
Mr. Chief Engineer Perez, sir, switch off synchroscope.
After the synchronization, midshipman or Rebello will proceed to the other procedures.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, go to Directory 101, Power Chip Generator Control. Press Connect Auto, Prior 1 for Diesel Generator 1, and Prior 2 for Diesel Generator 2.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, go to Directory 40 to start all emergency room fan supply and exhaust fans.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, go to Directory 10, Freshwater System, open low temperature freshwater cooler number 1, shut-off valve.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, open low temperature freshwater cooler 1 and 2, bypass valve, and air compressor cooler shut-off valve.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, start low temperature freshwater pump number 1, then switch to remote.
And now, the last step. Here is Midshipman Saulog to discuss the last part of the procedures.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, go to Directory 59, start air system. Prepare the air compressor number 1 and 2 using receiver number 1 and 2.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, go to Directory 60 Service Air System. Prepare the service air compressor in preparation for boiler operation.
Done.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, go to Directory 102, Power Chief Pumps and Compressor Control.
Next.
Chief Engineer Perez, sir, put the seawater pump and low temperature freshwater pump to auto mode. Put all air compressor to auto mode.
And now, this is the end of the demonstration of our group. Power generation from cold ship to diesel generator 1 and 2. Thank you.